We can start now.
Everyone, Arana, everyone. So today also we are going to have a Dhamma talk about mainly the reality of the world and the pathway to achieve Nibbana. So today's topic is about the 5 aggregates or Pancakkandha and Upadanakkhandha, or the clinging or the attachment to these 5 aggregates. So initially when we are going to talk about Pancakkandha, we have to know what is the basis and why do we need to know about the Pancakkandha. So Pancakkandha is a way of understanding the world. There are a few other ways, such as we can divide the world according to ayatanas. We can divide the world according to dhatu, or we can use this method of Pancakkandha as well. And with these methods, what we are doing is we are trying to simplify the way we are looking at the world. For example, it is said that Sabbe Sankhara Anicchati. So, and again, Sabbe Sankhara Dukkhati. And Sabbe Sankhara Anattati. So we have to know what Sabba means, what everything means. So this is a way of defining everything. So for today, we'll discuss about the 5 aggregates. Ayatana, which have 12 components, mainly focuses on internal and external organs, eyes and images, ears and sounds, smells and the nose, tongue and the taste, body and the touch, mind and thoughts. So 6 for internal and 6 for external, complete 12 components. So this is a way of understanding the world. So the primary goal is to see them as anicca, dukkha and anatta. And when it comes to dhatu, we divide this world into 6 parts. Apo, tejo, vayo, patavi, akasa and vijnana. So this is another way of seeing at the world. So it has both physical as well as the non-physical components. Apo, tejo, vayo, patavi has the physical part, and with akasa has the physical part, and the vijnana has the non-physical part. When it comes to 12 ayatanas also, it also has the physical as well as the non-physical part. Now, the discussions we had during the past few sessions about Paticcasamuppada is also a way of understanding the world. Now, in that, it is mainly about the non-physical part. Since the non-physical component or the mental component gives rise to the physical component, understanding that itself is understanding the world. So today, what we are going to learn about is Pancakkandha. Now, Pancakkandha mainly has the non-physical component, but it includes the physical aspect as well. Skandha, when it comes to Skandha, it means the aggregation. It means, so if we get the meaning of Skandha, the simple meaning of Skandha means mountain. That means a lot. So before understanding Skandha, we should understand what Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana is. Then we will be able to understand what Rupa Skandha means, Vedana Skandha means, Sanya Skandha means, Sankara Skandha and Vijnana Skandha means. So when understanding the Rupa Skandha, Rupa, so there are 5 parts when it comes to this classification. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. So Rupa, the simple meaning of Rupa is a pattern. When it comes to these patterns, there are 6 types of patterns. That is Rupa Rupa, then the Saddha Rupa, we can say Sound Rupa, then the Smell Rupa, Taste Rupa, Touch Rupa, and Mano Rupa or Mental Rupa. The Rupa is a pattern. It is a way how the things are arranged. If colors are arranged in a specific pattern, we call it Rupa Rupa. If sounds are arranged in a specific pattern, we call it Saddha Rupa. And when there are different kinds of smell particles arranged in a specific way, we call it Gandha Rupa. And when it is about taste, when the salt content, sugar content, and all the other things that should come together to give a specific taste are there, we call it a pattern. And that pattern is Jivha Rupa. And when it is about touch, it is Pottabha Rupa. And ultimately, all of this is taken in by the mind. And also mind itself creates patterns, mental images. And that is called Manorupa. So it is said that this Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, they work together. Especially Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. You cannot find the rest, these 4, in isolation. If there's Vedana, there should be Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. If there's Sanya, the other 3 should be there. If there is Sankara, then the other 3 should be there. Vijnana cannot last without Vedana, Sanya, Sankara. So, Rupa gives rise to Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. So if there's no Rupa, then we cannot talk about Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. So there's this law, there's this nature of how that this Pancakkandha works. So when it comes to Vedana, it is about feeling whether it is blissful, feeling whether it is neutral or suffering. So Vedana has three components: blissful, suffering, or neutral. So based on what you see, or in other words, based on the rupa or the pattern of the colors, you might feel, after that is taken in, of course, by the mind, you would feel blissful. Either you would feel blissful, or you can feel neutral, or it can be a suffering experience. So that is the Vedana component of it. Again, sound also has these three properties. Based on a sound pattern that is encountered, you can feel blissful. You might like it. Or it can be a rough experience. It can be just neutral. So this applies to all the 6 components of Rupa. So we can say Rupa Vedana, Sabda Vedana, Gandha Vedana, Rasa Vedana, Pottabha Vedana, and Mano Vedana. Again, this applies to all the 6 components which was in Rupa. As Rupa is the one gave rise to Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. So it helped. So it is the pattern which was taken in to create the Vedana or the feeling. So the Vedana also can be divided into 6 parts based on these 6 entities, types of modalities that are taken in. So as soon as there's this Vedana, there needs to be a Sanya. So without a recognition, so Sanya is about recognition. So you recognize what is being taken in. So you identify if there's a tree, you understand that it is a tree. If it is a smell of a rose flower, then you understand, you recognize it as the smell of a rose flower. If it is a sound of a bird, you identify the bird, the name of the bird, you remember, your memory refreshes and you identifies what bird is it. So again, there are 6 types based on these 6 modalities: Rupa Sanya, Saddha Sanya, Gandha Sanya, Rasa Sanya, Pottabha Sanya, and Mano Sanya. So that is the recognizing part. So note that these different components of Pancakkandha, just different parts, though they work in unison, though they work together, these different component or these individual components have different parts to play. Without even one, this system would not work. So for this system to work together successfully, all these components should be there. Otherwise, it wouldn't start. It's just like for a flame to start, we know the fire triad, the needed temperature should be there, and there should be a fuel, and there should be oxygen. So if these three come together, only a fire or a flame is being generated. Otherwise, we cannot identify a flame, or we cannot see a flame, because all the causes did not align together to create a flame. Just like that, only if these five things come together, Pancakkandha, or the five aggregates, would come to life. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Now, we are discussing about one aspect, one way of understanding Pancakkandha. There are different ways of understanding it. This is the understanding in a finer level, in a millisecond. If we are trying to understand what do we see as a living being, a sentient being, this is the explanation we get. But if we apply it to a more broader time periods, then the definitions and the components in these aggregates, the nature of the components changes a little bit. And we'll discuss that as well, especially when it comes to skandha. So we are just starting to learn about Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, not the Rupa Skandha, Vedana Skandha, Sanya Skandha, Sankara Skandha, and Vijnana Skandha, which gives rise to the Pancakkandha. So when it comes to Sankara is about the processing. So without processing these things, the processing component of this is Sankara. So recognizing component is Sanya, the understanding what Vedana, or what type of feeling is being perceived, is Vedana. And the processing, without processing, we cannot understand what is being perceived. So the processing is essential. So you have to take in these modalities or these inputs, the Rupa, or whether it's Shabda Rupa, whatever it is, you have to take it in, process it, and then only the Vedana, Sanya, and Vijnana would occur. And the processing part is Sankara. So depending on the 6 types of modalities that are taken in, we can have 6 types of Sankara. And that is called Rupa Sanchetana, Sattva Sanchetana, Gandha Sanchetana, Rasa Sanchetana, Pottabha Sanchetana, and Mano Sanchetana. So the mind is being created in these instances. So that is also needed. If that is not there, you understand there cannot be a Vedana, because no processing. You cannot recognize it because there's no processing. There's no consciousness about any of these things, because there was no processing. So that is Sankara. And the last bit is Vijnana. Vijnana is about the consciousness about seeing. Now you are seeing it, you are feeling the object, not the blissful nature or suffering nature, but you are feeling that you are seeing an object. Those are two different things. That is called Rupa, Vijnana. Saddha Vijnana, Gandha Vijnana, Rasa Vijnana, Pottabha Vijnana, and Mano Vijnana. Again, 6 types depending on the 6 modalities that are taken in. So now that is it about Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. What you need to know is this is everything. Everything pertaining to this world is being explained here. You cannot find anything else that does not fit into this category. So this is a way of seeing this world. Whatever it is, it either falls onto a image, or to a sound, or to a smell, or taste, or touch, or a mental image. You cannot find any other modalities that are there in this world that can be perceived by a living being. These are the only components. So for us, when we are seeing from our point of view, this is world for us. We cannot see anything else in this world. Everything falls, everything that are in the world falls into this Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana category. So these patterns, or the Rupa, mainly has this physical part. I said that there are 2 parts, physical and non-physical. So the Rupa falls onto the physical part of it. But as soon as it is converted to Mano Rupa, and the last Rupa, that is not physical. So every Rupa, just like a photocopy machine photocopying from the physical copy, or the original copy, into a black and white copy, which is the photocopy. Just like that, our this mind and body works together to get a mental copy. So if we are seeing at a scenery, or let's say we are seeing a tree, so this tree, the external tree, is never taken in to the mental realm. It is a copy of it. You saw the tree with your eyes, and this tree, the mental copy, is taken into the mental, or the Mano Rupa. Again, that is true for sound as well. So you cannot, only your eardrum starts to vibrate when there is sound around. As the sound waves hits your eardrum, it starts vibrating, and depending on the pattern of vibration, there's a mechanism that works, which has nerves, brain, and other things, and ultimately it is converted to a Manorupa. So that's why if you try to remember what music you listened to last week, you cannot identify. You can understand, you can remember, you can remind yourself that this is the type of music I listen to. Not that you are listening to it right now, but the mental copy is there, and you are understanding, or you are able to recall that mental copy. Again, that's the same for smell, taste, touch as well. So those things are directly this Rupa Vedana, Rupa Sabda Gandha Rasa Spalsa. Or again, Rupa, or image, sound, smell, taste, and touch are directly related with the physical component. And the other one, the Mano Rupa, as well as Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, does not have a physical component. Those are all metaphysical. Those falls under the mental component. So Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana is what gives rise to the consciousness and this ability or the perception that we are seeing, that we are experiencing, that we are listening, feeling, and everything. So this is about Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. So you have to understand that this Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana are created as soon as the Rupa is perceived. So all five are created as soon as the Rupa, Saddha, Gandha, Rasa, Pottabha, or then there's the thoughts are being perceived. So if there's a timeline like this, so if the five aggregates are created here, as soon as the five aggregates are created, since they are sankata or things that are created, there are three qualities or characteristics of things that are created. These things has a birth and it can change its nature, which is anicca. It changes its nature. It is not permanent, and it decays and ultimately get destroyed, or it moves towards destruction. In a timeline, it has a birth, it has a death, and it in between it decays. So as soon as these five aggregates are created, how these are created? So we know that there's karmic energy, and karmic energy initially creates the internal organ system: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Six ayatanas, six indriya, six organs are created initially due to the karmic energy because of our avidya and tanha. And it also creates this the collision of eyes and images, ears and sounds, nose and smells, tongue and taste, touch and there's mind and thoughts. So initially, these internal organs were created by the karmic energy, and we felt like we are living, and then it creates causes for the external and internal organs to meet together. So as soon as eyes meets images, or again in this classification, rupa is being created, and when it is taken in creating Rupa Vijnana or Chakku Vijnana, we get all the 5 components of Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. So we are able to see. But as soon as this is created, since it is a thing, since it is a object that is that got created because of causes, as soon as it is created, it dies. So this component of Pancakkandha that was created at that moment get destroyed, leaving room for another Pancakkandha to form. So then again, let's say you start hearing something. So again, then the sound rupa or the Saddha rupa was created because of karmic energy. The Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana also were created. And again, another 5 aggregate. This is the next one, because the last one got destroyed because of time passing. It subjected to the viparinama nature of the world. So the next Pancakkandha was created, and it also gets destroyed. And this works as a chain. So Pancakkandha after Pancakkandha is being created right now as well. When we are listening to this sermon, listening to this discussion, you are hearing something. So the sound rupa giving rise to a neutral vedana, and you are recognizing what is being said, and you are processing it inside your mind, and you are conscious about this listening. But you hear word after word, letter after letter, or the sound after sound. So the sound, the Pancakkandha, which is created because of one sound rupa, should be eliminated for the other one to be recognized. Otherwise, you would not be able to understand what is being said continuously. Because as soon as one sound pattern is being recognized, if that Pancakkandha did not decay and at the end get destroyed, there's no room for another to be formed. So this is how the mind works. So as soon as the Pancakkandha is being created, it decays and it ends up in get destroyed, and it leaves room for another Pancakkandha to be formed. So if we see now, there's rupa in each and every Pancakkandha or the 5 aggregates. There's rupa in everything. So if we see, if our life is, let's say, 30 years, we have lived 30, 40 years. So we have created that much of rupa patterns during that time period. Whether it's a rupa, saddha rupa, gandha rupa, regardless of what it is, we have created various types of rupa. So if we aggregate these things together, if we aggregate everything together, we get a mountain of rupa. We have a lot of rupa. And again, that is the same for Vedana as well. Get a lot of Vedana, Sanya, Sankar, and Vijnana. Now, when you do that, we call it Rupa Skandha. Rupa, which were created in the past, which are created in the present, and which will be created in the future. And also Rupa that are far away, Rupa that are near, Rupa that are blissful, Rupa that are suffering, Rupa that are solid, Rupa that are fine. If everything is compiled together, we call it Rupaskandha. It's the same for Vedana as well. Past Vedana, Vedana that are perceived in the present, Vedana that will be perceived in the future, and also suffering Vedanas, blissful Vedanas, Vedana that are far away, and Vedana that are perceived near. And there are different types of Vedana, and if we compile them together, we call it Vedanaskandha. And that's the same for Sanya as well, Sankara and Vijnana as well. So this creates the Pancakkandha. So Pancakkandha is a way of understanding this world. Now, why do we need this way of understanding? That is to make our things easier, or that is to see this world as anicca dukkha anatta. This is an easy way of understanding this world as anicca dukkha and anatta. Think now, our world or this world is actually perceived as Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. So, since we do not know that there are 5 components before understanding this, we think that it is a one solid thing that is capable of understanding, that is capable of doing things, that is Nitya, Sukha, Atha, and Subha. But when you divide this using this is called Bhagava, quality of Bhagava. You are dividing and seeing. When you divide it and see Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, you understand that this is actually a process. So the consciousness is not something that is there regardless of the external environment. No, it is actually a mechanism. So if there's no Rupa, no Vijnana, no consciousness, because there's karmic energy creating this perfect environment for a Pancakkandha to occur continuously. We feel that there's continuous consciousness, but in reality, consciousness is actually a result of causes. So when we understand that, it is something, if I give you an analogy, it is something like this. So there's this ball of fire that is rotated in a high speed so that we can see a ring of fire. So if a ball of fire is rotated like this, you can see a ring of fire. So this is a fireball. So this ring, if somebody says, where did you buy this ring? Where are you taking this ring to? And these questions cannot be answered if you know the reality of the ring. You know that you cannot take this ring anywhere, and you know that you did not bring a ring here. It is actually a result of causes. When the causes get aligned, the result is, or when this ball is being rotated, the result is a ring of fire. If you need to make, if you want to tell somebody the story behind this ring, you have to tell him the mechanism of how it is being created, how it got created in the first place. So just like that, you see a Sattva. Sattva is, oh, you see a sentient being and you see a one unit which can think, which can see, hear, feel, in which does his or her own things, thinking independently. That is what you think. That is what we can see. We can see a sentient being, and we also think about ourselves like that. We think we are independent, we are permanent, we can control ourselves according to our expectations, and we think that we are living a blissful lifestyle, blissful life. And that is the understanding one gets when you see it as a whole, it as a one big unit. But when you divide it, when you see this aspect, how it is being created, not the one big unit, that is a delusional way of seeing it, or it is our eyes, our mind is tricked by this ball or the ring of fire, or this one big unit. So to understand the reality of this world, you have to go and you have to understand the mechanism behind it. So to understand the mechanism behind it, what you do is you would see, you divide and see. You would see that this as Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vinyana. You divide it and see. So when you divide it and when you are seeing after division, so it is a, I'll give you another example here. Now let's say this is a bank. So if this is a bank, there should be a cashier, and there should be a manager, and there should be security guards, and there should be customers coming in. And if everything is there, you call it a bank. So how? So now you are seeing one unit, a bank. But it is actually a process, not one unit. So you can apply this same principle to this Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vinyana. That's why I am explaining this. So for this to become a bank, if we go back to the beginning, there's this building. We cannot call this building a bank. A building and few people. That means maybe the people in the counter, maybe the people or the manager. Still, it is not a bank. We can say it's a half bank, or a part of a bank, not a bank. You put the security guard, still not a bank, because nobody is coming and nobody's doing any transactions. So the process of banking, which happens inside a bank, should happen, and there should be different components that should work in unison, that should work concurrently for it to become a bank. So people should come. So when all the components are there, when all the components are working, then we call it a bank. So there's nothing called a bank. We can call the security guard a bank. We can call the people who are coming in a bank. We cannot call the manager or the people behind the counter or this building a bank. It's a building, not a bank. So just like that, there's this bank there's this institute which has 5 components: Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. This is not us. This is not the sentient being. This is Vijnana. This is just Sankhara. This is Sanya. This is Vedana, and this is Rupa. But as explained in the example of the bank, if everything works together, then a ball of, or the ring of fire is seen. It is a delusion. The delusional self, delusional idea of me and myself is being seen when these 5 things work together. These 5 things work in unison, or in the same process. So that is how you see, that is how you need to understand this, that this is a process that is happening underneath a sentient being. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, when those 5 things work together, you see a person who can speak, who can talk, who can go, who can make his own decisions. Now that is a reason, that is a expression, or that is how this process express itself to the outside world. And you almost always, if you have the avidya, ignorance, you feel that it is right and it is the truth, and you find it valuable. You think that you can control this world, at least your body and mind, according to your expectation, and you think that you can make it better, can make it blissful, and you think that it is essential. So that is the idea one gets when you get this Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana as one unit. But when you divide it, you understand that it is not a, as stated in the example, it is not a ring of fire, it is a ball of fire. When it rotates in a very high speed, it shows a ring of fire. It is seen as a ring of fire. Not, it is, in reality, it is not a ring of fire. So that is what you get on, what you understand. So the another important aspect is, so in a timeline, we understood that when one Pancakkandha is being created, it gets destroyed, leaving room for another to be created. So if you call this Pancakkandha me, or myself, or if it is perceived as myself, then when this is gone, what is this? So there's this thing where you cannot claim ownership. How can you claim ownership when it is a constant process of creation and destruction? So the Pancakkandha has a, so the thing is, you have to see it with your wisdom. You won't be able to see it with your eyes, your ears, you won't be able to hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. Because the Pancakkandha, which gives rise to this body and mind. If you see from using your eyes, it is more or less similar. It looks like the same, but since our eyes cannot understand the difference, since it's so similar, it's just like clones of the self. So it's clones of the same person. So if clones are being created one after another, on one top of another, one gets created and it gets destroyed. As soon as it gets destroyed, another clone is being created. But the clone is not the same person. It just looks like the same. Just like that, we have to understand that you cannot claim ownership when it comes to when you have the understanding about this Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vinyana. So again, the important part is this cannot be changed because we have created causes. As long as our life span is or our life is there, maybe for 80 years, 70 years, 50 years, we don't know how long it will take. For so until that time period ends, this Pancakkandha or the mechanism of these five aggregates would work. It would be there. It would be happening throughout that time. So the thing we can do is there's another thing that is happening because of this Pancakkandha. So we get attached to the Pancakkandha. And that is what completes the cycle. So it is something like this. The karmic energy is created because of Pancakkandha plus attachment. So when these two things act together, it gives to the karmic energy, it creates karmic energy, and which again creates a Pancakkandha because of avidya. So avidya gives rise to this Pancakkandha, and this Pancakkandha, because avidya is still there, this avidya causes attachment to the Pancakkandha and creates a full cycle, and the cycle never ends, and we call it sansara. So the sansari journey is there. So for this to stop, we have to get rid of this avidya and attachment. So if that is gone, this would not be created. And even though the karmic energy, there's a huge pool of karmic energy that is there in this according because of our past actions, this would not happen because there's no avidya. A new Pancakkandha would not be created. So that ends the sansaric cycle. So for the sansaric cycle to end, we have to understand what we should do. So you know that we'll go with the uh, previous explanations about Paticcasamuppada, and we'll apply this to the Paticcasamuppada, this five aggregates, the understanding of five aggregates into the Paticcasamuppada, and try to understand what is the mechanism that we should stop happening. So if we are seeing something, this is a picture and this is the eyes, and when you this is happening because of karmic energy. you get to see the picture, and as soon as it is being seen, or as soon as this happens, what is happening? The chakku vijnana. Chakku vijnana pachaya nama. This is the Abhaya Paticcasamuppada, Nam Pachaya Chattayatana, or the sixth organ, or the mind. Then there's touch. Then there's this Vedana, where you feel the form of Vedana, whether it's here it's neutral. Vedana Pachaya, there's no Tanha, because there's no Avidya here, yet you are getting the information into your system. Still you are registering what you are seeing. So Vedana, there's no Tanha, Upadana, there's Bhava. We can say process of seeing state of being, and finally seeing. And this is called type or jati. Or jati is created at the end. Now, when this happens, at the end, you have Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. So you have the initial data set. So this is a Rupa, and the Vedana is a Rupa Vedana, Rupa Sanya, and then there's Rupa Sanchetana, and this is the Chakku Vijnana, which is formed because of the seeing through the eye. So there's no attachment here. You are seeing you are getting in this data, new information into the system. But as soon as this is taken, if you have avidya as Anu said, if you have avidya, the core if you have avidya in your system, then based on this information that is being taken in avidya pachya sankhara is happening. Then again vijnana, nama rupa, salayatana, passa, vedana, tanha, padana, bhava, and jati. Since we have discussed this before, I'm not going to go into detail of what these are, but the important part is this initial information was again subjected to a processing with avidya. So with avidya, it was processed again, and that processing changes the perception, creating salayatana, and the passa becomes sampassa. Sampassa means with raga, dvesha, and moha. So the vedana becomes a delusional vedana, and the attachment, upadana, and finally a jati is created, and that is called Panca Upadanakkhandha. So now there's a special part inside the word, as there was Pancakkandha, but in the middle now there's a thing called Upadana, because now it is being processed with avidya, changed with avidya. Now the Rupa is not just Rupa, it's not just Rupa Skandha, but Rupa Upadanakkhandha. Vedana is not just Vedana Skandha, it is Vedana Upadanakkhandha. Again, it applies to the other three: Sanya Upadanakkhandha, Sankara Upadanakkhandha, Vijnana Upadanakkhandha. So it has the Rupa plus Avidya and Tanha. So your viewpoint or your delusional way of seeing is also attached with the Rupa. So again, for the Vedana also, you have created this Salayatana, where you know that if it is the organ, it is zero, but you have created a vexatious organ system, and what you perceive as Vedana, even though it is in reality zero, since your Salayatana has become vexatious, you perceive zero as a plus Vedana. So you are experiencing a delusional blissfulness and Vedana Upadanakkhandha. And the Sanya also aligns with that. So the Sanya is, this is a good thing, this is a blissful thing. I should associate, I should use this, I should save this, I should protect this, is the Sanya that you get. And Sankara would be uh, uh, to protect it, or uh, to cling on to it. And Vijnana is about the delusional understanding, or because of the delusional or the creation of Vijnana here, because of um, based on the idea of avidya. So the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, which was initially about the normal perception, is changed, and now what you are seeing is actually a delusional idea, and that is called Panchupadanaskandha. So this is what gives rise to the sansaric journey, because the sansaric cycle continues when this mindset occurs. So what, as Aryas, what we do is, as soon as we are, we cannot stop the Pancakkandha process of Pancakkandha. It would be there even you become Arihat. It would be there until the end of your sansaric journey, or until the end of that lifetime, because of karmic energy you will be seeing things, because you have eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. You will be seeing, hearing, feeling and thinking, or the thoughts would come to your mind, and that would not stop. But what stops there is that alteration of what you already saw, alteration of what you already heard, alteration with avidya. Otherwise, that seeing does not, that hearing, that feeling does not create the sansaric journey. What creates the sansaric journey is attachment because of avidya. So you see something and you think that it is nitya sukata subha. You feel that it has value, it is important, and you get attached to it. When you get attached to it, your peace in the mind, or peaceful mindset, is not there anymore, because when you get attached to something, whether it's a rupa or a sound, or whether it's an image, sound, smell, taste, touch, or a thought, when you are attached to something, you cannot get rid of it. You don't like to be parted or separated from the feeling. Because of that, fear starts to occur. Fearful thoughts uh, start to get created in your mind. What if I lose this? What if somebody steals this? What if this gets destroyed in gets destroyed. Also, so like like that, a fearful thought process starts to occur. And this, since however much you become fearful, however much you try, since you don't have any control over the world, and what you expect does not happen all the time, because expectation, you cannot control this world according to your expectations. What would happen is you get disappointed. What you thought becomes the reality. You thought, what if this gets stolen? And it gets stolen. It gets still sometimes. It gets stolen sometimes. It gets destroyed sometimes. So because of that, disappointment occurs. So you are not going to um, acknowledge your failures. You are not going to acknowledge your defeat. What you would do is you would try more harder to latch on to these things. So you would hurt, you would steal, you would have unethical relationships, you would say, you would tell lies, you would use harsh language, meaningless words, or whatever you have in your arsenal to save this thing that is dear to you, that is perceived as blissful, and that itself uh, destroys your peace, destroys your peacefulness in your mind. And this creates the clinging nature or the attaching nature. And when at the end, however much you do this tug of war, at the end you will, the death would come, or you would, even if that object is there, you would have to go, you die. And at the deathbed, since you did not have any plans to get separated from the images you like, from the sounds you like, from the tastes, touches, and smells you like, and also the thoughts you like, you would cling on to these things, would create a karmic energy that would create the organ system back again. So, depending on what type of thought you got, it can be a meritorious thought, it can be a sinful thought. Depending on the nature of the thought process, at the last instance, you would create a specific or corresponding type of a body and a mind. If the thought process is like a dog and not very meritorious, if it was a sinful thought process and your thinking was like a animal, then your body and mind which would get created in the next instance would be of a animal. And depending on uh, the the state or the nature of the thought, the nature of the body and the mind would be decided. So you would be traveling in this sansaric journey without any help, without any idea what should be done to get rid of this sansaric suffering. So when somebody understands about the reality, about anicca dukkha anatta, then that person would not get attached to this. Or in fact, the attachment, the level of attachment would start to reduce gradually. And when that is being reduced, since you don't care what rupa or images, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts that are being perceived, you don't feel that fearful nature. So you don't feel fearful because you're not attached. You don't care whether it's there or whether it's not there. So there's no effort to save these kinds of things. So when the inevitable happens, when they get destroyed, stolen, broken, whatever the thing happens to these items, you don't feel disappointed. You don't feel suffering. That is the nature of Arya. That is the nature of a person who is getting rid of avidya and tanha. So at the end, at the deathbed, what would happen is that person, since he does not care what images are there in the external world, what sounds, smells, touches, thoughts, and these 6 external items are there, since he has this broad understanding that there are no good things, there are no um, there are no valuable things in this external world, since that mind, that thought is not there, when he gets separated at the end, at the deathbed, he has no he does not create that mindset, or he does not get cling on to this world, thus does not create any energy that gives rise to a mind and a body at the end. So that would be the last mind and the last body that is being created, or the last Pancakkandha. So that is the idea about that. That is what you should practice when it comes to um, Pancakkandha. So that is how you should see the Pancakkandha, or the 5 aggregates, as anicca, dukkha, anatta. So it is like this: the 5 aggregates becomes attachment. So we call it Panca Upadanakkhandha. This is called Pancakkandha. So this happens because we have avidya in our system. This is default. This is what happens if we do not do anything. So to stop this happening, what we would do is we would see this as anicca, dukkha, and anatta. If you constantly see this as anicca, dukkha, and anatta, if you see that the result would be the attachment would reduce, and you would see the reality, and this would not occur because you are seeing it as anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So there's this, as I said before, there's this rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, and vijnana. So when you apply it to a longer period of time, let's say for our lifetime, maybe 80 years, so all the rupa, or the patterns, whether it's image pattern, sound pattern, then there's smell, taste, touch, and thoughts. Everything falls under this basket. So when it is comes to Vedana, whether it's a what do you call blissful Vedana, suffering Vedana, or a neutral Vedana, all the things falls under this. And when it comes to Sanya, all the Sanya, all the signs that we see, trees, the things that we need for recognition. So we see trees, bulbs, houses, people, whatever it is, things that we need for recognition falls under sanya. And all the actions, mental, there are three types of actions. One is using body. So you move your body, and those are bodily actions. And you can use your mouth, and you can use your vocals, and you can talk, and words come out of your mouth, and that is another type of action, and that is talking. So you can have actions using your body, and you can talk, and you can think. Those are the three actions, and everything falls under sankhara. And this consciousness and the feeling of living, feeling of seeing, feeling of, not the feeling of Vedana, which is about whether it's blissful, suffering, or neutral. This is the feeling about life, feeling about perception, feeling about I am seeing, I am hearing kind of a feeling. That is all of that falls under Vijnana. So these five baskets, if you divide it into the five baskets and try to divide this and see in your, try to divide this, try to divide your life into these five baskets, and you would see that it is actually a combination of these five that gives rise to one unit of living, or one unit of um, or a living being. This is what gives rise to a one unit. But in reality, those are five separate things that works together in in unison to give rise to give an effect. And this is a extremely sophisticated organ system that is created by the nature, that is created by causes and effects. That is what you need to understand. Whether it's about for a longer period, or whether it's for a shorter time period, what we need to understand is this Pancakkandha. The understanding this Pancakkandha is what helps us to understand the reality of the world, because we have to define the world, we have to understand the limitations of the world. From here to here is the world or something. So this is what world means. Uh, um, we cannot talk about anything else that is there in the world apart from this classification. So that is what we need to understand. Now, so now when you practice this anicca dukkha anatta, when by applying it to rupa vedana sanya sankhara vijnana, you are seeing it, the you are seeing the full spectrum. You are applying it to the full spectrum, so that the the level of avidya and level of attachment would reduce gradually without any loopholes, without any problems. So that is about five aggregates. I hope you understand this concept of five aggregates, and this is only one aspect of seeing this world. As I initially mentioned, we have ayatana, that is another way of seeing the world. We already discussed about paticcasamuppada, and we have dhatu, the classification which is used to describe this world. Again, there is another classification, dhatu, ayatana, and this is panchaskandha. So we can use either one depending on the uh, level of indriya, or the level of wisdom. We would find, or one would find, Pancakkandha is as more easier, and another one would find ayatana. Seeing the word as ayatana is easier. So it does not, it is not a problem. So in whichever way, what you need to do is you have to see that anicca dukkha anatta nature in whatever the way you prefer, whatever the classification you prefer. So if this 5 aggregates or Pancakkandha method is easier for you, you can use that. If that is not easy, that you find the ayatana as the easier method, then you can use that. So it does not matter what you use. What you need to understand is you have to get rid of avidya using one way or another. So the reason for this, so if you read the Tripitaka, the Pali Canon, you would find this 5 aggregate method a lot. It is being used most of the time when explaining Dhamma. The reason for that is it is actually widely, this method of this classification was widely spread during the time of Buddha, uh, before even he was born, because it is actually explained by the Buddha before him, who is Kashapa Buddha, and he, after he explained this noble Dhamma, after some time, the real meaning of Dhamma was hidden, but the remnants of Dhamma, such as the classification, such as these words, were taken by the Veda, and it was taught to the disciples, and it through the um, passing it from generation to generation, it came even to the era of Gautama Supreme Buddha. So when he became Supreme Buddha, this classification was there, but nobody knew what is anicca dukkha anatta. The use, nobody knew how to use it. So what they did was, they had this delusional view about Atma, where there's a permanent self who can control themselves according to the expectations, and which is very blissful. So they had the opposite idea of anicca dukkha anatta, which is nicca sukhatta supha. With that, they wanted to find where this where this Atma is. So they had this idea. They had 20 viewpoints based on this Pancakkandha method in finding where the where the Atma is. So one set of people said Rupa is the Atma, and then other set of people said no, Atma is the Rupa, and third set said Rupa is inside Atma, and the other, final set said Atma is inside Rupa. So likewise, it goes for Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana as well. So 4 into 5 becomes 20. So they had 20 views, and this is called Visati with the Sakkaya Ditti. So the wrong delusional idea they had during this time. So since this idea about Pancakkandha was embedded, was very popular in that era and in that society, that is mostly used to explain Dhamma because it's easier if it's already established. So it's not that it is one is superior to the another. You can use the Pancakkandha method, or you can use the Ayatana method, or you can use the Dhatu method. Whatever you use, what you would see is the anicca dukkha anatta nature of the world. So with that, I would uh, end this discussion and open the forum for any questions about today's discussion.
There was an answer. Are there any questions from the audience? If you have, please unmute yourself and please forward the question. Okay, in the absence of any questions from the audience, may I ask a question on the relationship between the steps that you described in Paticcasamuppada. For example, there's a Vedana and also Vijnana in Paticcasamuppada. And what is the relationship between those steps in Paticcasamuppada and the Pancakkandha?
So if we apply it in a very final level, chitta iti level, there's a very deep explanation about how the Pancakkandha is associated with this Paticcasamuppada and how each and every step has its own own Pancakkandha level. So for avidya, you have the Pancakkandha level. When it comes to sankhara, it is changed, and vijnana, it is changed. Likewise, there's a different kind of a explanation, and that is very sophisticated and very that is not essential to understand and to complete our this Arya pathway. But the important component when it comes to the Pancakkandha, if we apply it to this Paticcasamuppada, the initial level, initial step is here. There are two Paticcasamuppadas. One is the Abhaya Paticcasamuppada, where you start where the inputs are taken in, that is essential for mere survival. Even it is even there in a Arihat. So for example, we had this example where one at the end of this Paticcasamuppada, someone starts seeing. So when someone is seeing, you know that everything, as we discussed before, there are few laws when it comes to Paticcasamuppada, when it comes to Pancakkandha. If they are seeing, that means you have the consciousness. If you have the consciousness, that means you have Vijnana. So you know Vijnana cannot last alone. So then you know Vedana should be there, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, everything should occur at the same time. So you know that then now there's this Pancakkandha, 5 aggregates. Here, created here at the end of this Paticcasamuppada. Now this Paticcasamuppada cycle, this initially the Abhyakata Paticcasamuppada cycle is one explanation or one classification, and the Pancakkandha method is another classification. But since these two, the Paticcasamuppada method explains very well how the avidya starts. Avidya changes the normal perception of the person to a different delusional perceptional view. We can very easily apply the Pancakkandha method and the Upadanakkhandha into this Paticcasamuppada cycle. So this is a process that happens, and in the next process, so we have already taken in these inputs. That means Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana is already there. So we have the idea about the Rupa, and we know the Vedana, but the thing is, this happens so fast, we cannot experience the two separately. So if the avidya is there, what you experience is the delusional one. So what you would do is you would see it as anicca, dukkha, anatta, so that it would stop from the five aggregates without it becoming Panca Upadanakkhandha. You would stop at the level of Pancakkandha. So Vedana, Sanya, Sankara and Vijnana is being created here. So as soon as this with avidya, what happens? This initial set of data is changed with Sankara. Now avidya acts here, and a process of Sankara, a Vijnana is created. Now, at the point of Vijnana, you would be creating all the Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara as well. But the style of explanation is different in Paticcasamuppada cycle. So it explains, it elaborates on different things. So avidya here, Sankara, Vijnana, Namarupa, Salayatana, Rasa, Vedana, Tanha, Padana, Bhava and Jati. At the end, there's Jara Marana leading to Soka Parideva Dukkha Domana Supayasa. So here, this at the Vijnana level, you get the all five things. But the thing is, this explanation is a different type of explanation where it explains how the delusional Vedana is being formed. So it is the explanation here. It does not. It is not that in reality these things happen at the same time. As soon as the avidya pacha sankara happens already, since it is very what do you call very very fast and very sophisticated, these things happen almost at the same time. That is why there are four types of paticcasamuppada: anyamanya paticcasamuppada, which goes both ways, up and down, and there's this samprayukta paticcasamuppada, and there's pratya paticcasamuppada, and there's another paticcasamuppada. So there are four paticcasamuppadas, and these four paticcasamuppadas work in at the same time, and there are four stages in one paticcasamuppada, and these are very sophisticated what do you call parts in Abhidhamma. So we do not need that much of understanding. So we know that avidya, when avidya sankara happens, when sankara happens, it has the component of avidya. When vijnana happens, it has the component of avidya and sankara as well, because for it to form, you have to have the avidya, because it's a avidya vijnana which is created with the shape of avidya, and creation itself is sankara. So vijnana has both those components. So when it comes to vedana, so it has the shape of vijnana. So that's why the salayatana and passa, or the nama rupa salayatana and passa, which gives rise to this delusional, that is That is why we call it sampassa vedana. Though sampassa means sampasaja vedana. So sampassa means here is avidya. So avidya is also here, not that it is up here, but it applies to the vedana here as well. So it does not necessarily say that it goes in this exact pattern. It is there, the pattern is there, but with the pattern there are things. This avidya applies at the vedana level as well. So vijnana, the impact of vedana, vijnana is there for the vedana as well. So it works. It is like a what do you call uh, very complicated, very interconnected network. So here, when the Pancakkandha is being explained using the this normal idappaccayata paticcasamuppada, what we need to understand is this process of avidya or avidya paticcasamuppada changes its original form to a different form, to a delusional form, and that delusional form is what gives rise to this sansaric journey. And so if you understand that much, what we need to do, or the pathway, or the thing that should be uh, done to stop this vicious cycle, is actually seeing this as anicca dukkha anatta. In fact, it is the opposite of avidya, the reality. So we have to apply reality here. So when the reality is applied here, this cycle starting, or the ignition of this cycle, or the starting point of this cycle is uh, bypassed. So it is not, the avidya is not occurring at that point. So the jati, the delusional jati, is not created, which gives rise to the suffering, 11 sufferings, 11 flames of suffering. So that eliminates that eliminates this uh, paticcasamuppada from happening. But this paticcasamuppada, the abhyakata paticcasamuppada, would be there. It would be there regardless of you become an arihat or not. So what we do is we resurface our original pure mind, which is which is what do you call, um, which is covered up with avidya, which is there's these defilements that are covering this normal pure mindset. And what we are going to do is we are going to resurface that mindset, which is already in ourselves. But since the work of avidya is always occurring, we are not able to understand that this kind of a paticcasamuppada, or this kind of a pure mindset is in ourselves. So if you practice this, and if you are able to eliminate or reduce the level of avidya, you would start to see the difference, and you would start to understand that yes, there's this peaceful and calm mindset that does not attach to anything is there inside us, and it is very blissful. It is a very blissful state if you could stop at that level without creating this the other vicious or suffering paticcasamuppada cycle.
Therusana Hamdune. So Is it correct to say, in very simple terms, the five aggregates is actually what, when somebody sees or hears as an object or hears a word, that is actually heard without the person hearing or seeing that object or word forming their own opinion uh, to based on avidya to create pancha upadanaskandha, five grasping or clinging aggregates. So the five aggregates is just the pure perception or pure identification of an object. Is it correct to say that?
Yes, but the thing is, it can be only understood by a person who has already seen Dhamma. Otherwise, the person, a normal person who has not seen the reality, or the understood the truth about this world, would not be able to understand the difference. He would just get he would just think that the normal is what he perceives, and he would have this idea, so I'm not having any opinion right now, and this is what the panchaskandha is, or five aggregates is like. But a normal person, even a person who has understood in his first or initial stages, would not be able to identify whether there's avidya or not, because when it is covered up with moha, since moha is the nature of covering up, so the covered up mind would think that this is the normal. But in reality, normal is far from what he understood. So yes, technically it should be possible for someone to understand this, when there's no opinions of avidya. But you can nobody, or a person might not be able to differentiate whether he is having avidya or not until he is having moha, because moha is the nature of covering up the reality. And when the moha nature is there in that mindset, that he is not he has no ability to see past that cover. So he would think the nature, or the 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 experience he gets as the original experience. But in reality, there's a aspect that is covered up with moha. So since the moha is, we cannot see the nature or the level of moha, because that's the nature of moha, which is covering up the reality. We would think that what we perceive is the real nature. But in practical aspect, what I think, an arihat would be the only person who is fully able to understand, this is actually the uh, nature, or the five nature of five aggregates. Yes, a person who has become sotapanna up to arihat magga, or the pathway to arihat, would be able to see it, would be able to um, what do you call, um, um, he would be able to see it to an extent, see it in some instances. But the depending on the level of moha, the when the moha level is there, he would be able to see in instances where the moha is not a problem. So when the moha, or the covering nature of covering up the reality, is not a unit thing, or a one thing, one big unit. It is actually it starts with very dense avidya, or dense moha, and it reduces gradually. So when the level of very dense avidya or moha is gone, at that level we would be able to see that this is the uh, this is what I perceived before, which this is what gives rise to this suffering before, and now since I have seen the reality, since the dense moha and avidya is gone, I can very well see that this is the normal perception of this is the normal perception. So for example, if we think about what do you call sotapanna, he would not get the moha level for him to become a animal, or for him to go to four hells is already eliminated. So at that instance, that noble person would understand, if he gets this kind of a if the reasons or causes for five aggregates to occur, that would result in uh, 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 a sankara that goes uh, that is that would get him to the four hells. So initially he knows how it felt. He knows how the Pancakkandha, or the Panca Upadanakkhandha, which was created at that point, felt. And since that moha is not there in him right now, since it was eliminated at the first understanding, so he would feel now. Initially, before, I felt like this, and um, it was very vexatious. But right now, what I feel is very normal, and I don't feel that much of what do you call that much of vexation, that much of attachment, that much of hate and uh, conflict. I do not feel that much of conflict. So in that level, he is purified to an extent, and that purification would be felt as the difference. But it does not say he has fully eliminated avidya to its uh, core, or to the full extent. So there would be a level of avidya, level of conflict, level of hatred at that level as well, but it would not get him to the four hells, but as that level is gone. So to some extent he sees it, but if you see it from a perspective, or from the level of an arihat, he still have some work to do.
Well explained, Swaminathan. Are there any other questions from the audience? Please unmute yourselves, and you can forward the question to Tero. I guess there are no questions. So I believe we have spent almost 2 hours in this discussion. So I would thank Venerable Diguru Dhammadas Thero for spending his valuable time explaining these core principles of Dhamma to us, and helping us understand this path to Nirvana, and take us toward the enlightenment someday. And I respectfully invite our Tero to pass the merits and conclude this Dhamma discussion.
So today we discussed about the Pancakkandha, five aggregates, and how the five aggregates, the clinging onto it, and attachment and avidya towards the inputs that we receive, leads to sansaric journey, and the way or the method how we can eliminate that sansaric journey, and ultimately find peace and happiness or blissfulness using this Arya Dhamma. So everybody that listened and tried to understand this supreme Dhamma throughout throughout the span of 2 hours created immeasurable amounts of merits, because Arya Dhamma is a very rare thing to encounter, and you were lucky, and you have created causes in this sansaric journey for that to happen. And so today you got that chance and you got that opportunity, generating immeasurable amounts of merits, and with that meritorious power, all the problems, hindrances, and obstacles that might cover up your Nibbana pathway may get cleared up, and everyone would may get the perfect environment to understand the supreme Dhamma, ultimately attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Accept this blessing with a sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
And also, in this special occasion where we have gathered immeasurable amounts of merits, let us transfer this meritorious power to the people around, oh, through all the sentient beings in this universe, especially our deceased relations who helped us during this sansaric journey, and also the people who helped us, or the sentient beings who helped us throughout this sansaric journey, wherever they are in this universe, especially our parents, teachers, people who showed what is right and what is wrong, people who gave us education, teachers, and also people who gave us jobs, people who showed the correct path in Dhamma, and also people who constructed and maintains our infrastructure and houses and workplaces and all the surrounding things. And let us also remind the people who were hurted and harmed by us. Without the understanding about Arya Dhamma, we thought that this world is Nitya, Sukha, Attha, and Subha, or this world is a valuable place that we should cling on to. And with that idea or viewpoint, we might have done various unethical deeds, hurting, killing, stealing, having unethical relationships, and also lying, slandering, using harsh words, meaningless language, mischievous and greedy thoughts, and malicious thoughts, and also having wrong and distorted views. We might have hurted and harmed many sentient beings. And we know now that they are wrong, and with that understanding, we would acknowledge our faults, and we would promise ourselves that we are not going to do those kind of things again. And with that great understanding, we would transfer this meritorious power to the people or sentient beings who were hurted and harmed by us as well. And also, we let us remind all the sentient beings who helped us to have this discussion without a problem, without interruptions, people who created these platforms, people who created these temples, and people who uh, sponsored for these electronic devices and everything. Let us also remind all the deities in the six realms of gods who are there helping and protecting this world from evil spirits and dark energies. And also let us remind all the Brahma gods that are there in this universe, and let us, including all of them, let us remind all the sentient beings in this universe and transfer this meritorious power regardless of wherever they are in this universe, and may they be happy and delightful about these meritorious deeds. May they lead, if they are in miserable places, may they refrain from doing sins. May they replace those sins with meritorious deeds, and may they lead happy lives, ultimately understanding the reality of the world, attaining the supreme bliss of Nibbana. With that thought in mind, transfer this meritorious power to all the sentient beings in the universe with metta and kindness, with the sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So I'll be ending the session with a blessing at the end. Abhivadana silissa nichang vaddhapchayino chattaro dhamma vaddanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sabba sampatti mevacha atho nibbana sampatti minate samicchatu sukhateva.
Sadhu. Silavantang gunavantang punyakirtang anuttarang dullabena maya laddhang pasitum vanditum varang Sariputtadi teranang nagatang patipatiyam Saddha silang dayavasam buddhaduttang namamah. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Terun sanayam. Uh, may, uh, uh, thank you for everyone who participated in.